Hi, this is Darren from Property Prosperity. I thought today I would have a chat to you about something slightly different. I've recently, only in the last few months, got my first commercial property to sell, and I've actually learned a few things by trying to sell a commercial property. And it's actually I've been able to apply that to the world of residential property as well, and just general in the world of sales, I suppose. So I thought you might find it interesting. So here's what I've learned so far. Is the first thing I've learned is this particular property. It's quite a big property and it's quite a desirable property, so it's in a really good location, and there's a lot of people that be interested in it. But saying that, it's on the market at like $3.5 million. So even though it is a good property and people are interested in it, there's only a very small handful of people that might be interested. Thanks for the like, and thanks for joining. And like I said, if you like what I'm saying, please click on the like button, and if you've got any questions, feel free to put questions in the comment box. So yeah, it's on the market, $3.5 million. So the first thing, I've just basically tried to copy what other commercial agents do because it was my first commercial property. So what I did is I whacked a huge sign out the front, like the biggest sign I could find, and then I doubled it by 2. So I had 2 massive signs out the front because it's on a main road. Hey, Debbie. And so I thought heaps of people could have a look at it, because I figured, you know, at the end of the day, people are going to buy a commercial property, drive around in cars like everyone else, so why not put it on there? So that's the first thing. Second thing I did was I put it on the internet. Basically, there's only one spot. Hey, Paul Vero, thanks for joining. There's only one spot to put it, and that's on what's called realcommercial.com. There's other places, but not that many people go on there. Unfortunately, they've worked out some sort of scam thing, these internet providers, and so they charge you thousands of dollars to put an advert on there, which is nuts, but at the end of the day, that's where people go. So that the next thing to think about after we've done the sign and then put an advert on the internet is then how do we go and actually sell this thing? Because my concern was at the end of the day, there's only a really small handful of people that could, you know, got $3.5 million to spend. And the crazy thing is this is a development site. So you spend $3.5 million, you don't actually get anything you can do anything with. You still have to build a building on that, which might be millions of dollars on top of that. So you can imagine the number of people. It might only be a handful of people that might even slightly be interested, and that's hoping that they're in the right place at the right time to actually want to buy it. So I knew right from the start that a sign and advert on the internet wasn't going to cut it. So basically I knew what I needed to do was go and find those 5 people, because I don't necessarily know those 5 people with millions of dollars sitting in the bank account waiting to buy a development site. I knew then I probably had to work in with some other commercial agents, because they've spent years and years and years. They've probably been doing it 20, 30 years. A lot of commercial agents have been doing it for a long time. They've probably got all the contacts. And if there's only like 20 people that can afford this thing, then why don't I just deal with those people? So first thing you really then need to understand is no one's going to do anything for free. So I would have to give a few bucks to those commercial agents to allow me to access their database of people that might be interested. So by splitting their commission, I've obviously, you know, reduced my commission, but likewise, I've opened myself out to a world of people that otherwise wouldn't have got to. So that's the first thing to understand. If my commission, me as an agent, isn't big enough for me to be able to split my commission, then I'm not going to be able to split it with somebody else, which means I'm going to try and do it on myself, and I'm restricting who will be able to look at the property. Hey, Gregory, thanks for joining. So really, so my first advice to you, if you are going to get a commercial agent to try and sell your property for you, make the commission worth their while, and not just worth their while after they split it in half and share it with somebody else. Because as I've discovered now, all the commercial agents work in together, and if someone knows someone that knows someone that wants to buy it, they'll bring them to the other commercial agent and say, hey, I've got this person, they're interested. Yep, no problems, and they'll split the commission between themselves so that everyone's happy. Because there's such a small number of people that might be interested, then really they've got to work in together. Otherwise, you know, it's just going to be too difficult trying to find the right buyer. So yeah, make sure your commission's worth their while, and worth their while. If it's half the commission, it's still worth their while. Because if they're only going to get a few bucks, and it is quite difficult to sell a commercial property, there's only very few people looking at buying it. It may take, you know, years to try and sell this property. So why are they going to put in crazy amounts of effort if they're going to get, you know, $1,000 when they could go off and try and sell something for a lot more? So it's unfortunate, and it seems like these agents getting crazy amounts of money for not doing very much. But unless it's a good amount of money, they're probably not going to put the effort in, really. So make sure the commission is fair, that you think they're going to try hard enough to try and get that commission. Because at the end of the day, when you're talking millions of dollars you're selling a property for, you want to make sure you know, you can give away, you know, quite a fair chunk of that and still make it worth your while, and motivate the agent to try really hard. So So that's the thing. So we put a signboard up, add a thing on the internet, which who knows what that does, and then we get other agents to help market it for us. The next thing, and something what I learnt before in the world of residential real estate, you have just open inspections. People rock up, you hand out a little brochure, give them some information. What people in the world of commercial want to have, they want a document that's going to give them all the information they need, and they call that thing an information memorandum, which in my case, I went over the top. If you get onto, if you go into Real Commercial and you look up any of my adverts on there, you'll be able to download my information memorandum. It's like 40 pages long. It's nuts. I've put so much information there that hopefully no one ever have to ask me a question because I've put so much information. I've been as thorough as I possibly can. That's really cool because at the end of the day, you know, commercial people are going to spend millions of dollars. They're probably pretty busy people. They don't want to waste their time ringing up an agent, asking them questions and trying to find out this and that. So the more information you put on there, the better. How I've applied that back to my own business, I think the same logic goes with someone that's buying a house for, you know, $300,000. You know, they don't have time to waste, you know, ringing up agents, asking them for questions. So my logic is just give people heaps of information. At the end of the day, if they don't need it, then they'll just disregard it. But if they do, they can look through it and get all the information. So I'm actively looking at putting that into my business, not only for the marketing on realestate.com and on the internet, but also when people come to the opens, actually just emailing them through a copy of the, you know, an equivalent of the information memorandum, giving them all the information they could possibly hope for. And so then they don't have to call me and ask me any questions. And likewise, then that just shows I've got nothing to hide, gives them lots more information and stuff. So, so that's the next thing I've implemented and how I've applied that back to my business. What else have we got with commercial world? So the other thing about the commercial world too is that just, you know, when you're talking that amount of money, people are only doing it if they're going to make money. You know, they're not going to live in it. They don't really care about the property itself. They're not going to fall in love with it. If the numbers don't work, then they're not going to buy it. So that's the thing you have to be really clear on. Just because the owner wants a certain price, the buyers don't care. It can sometimes in the residential world, you might decide to fall in love with it and you'll pay a little bit more than you otherwise would. Even that within reason, you're not going to go over the top. But with commercial, it's purely the numbers. If the numbers don't work, then no one's going to buy it. So you have to make sure that the price you're selling it for is going to make the numbers work. So what we did in our instance is we went off and drew up a whole pile of plans. We chatted to council. I was trying to solve problems because the easier I can make it for the purchaser, the more likely they are to buy the property. So that's what I was intending to do by drawing plans up. Understanding that people weren't necessarily going to use those plans. I maximised the site to try and do the most I could possibly do. But it was about trying to show them what was possible, not necessarily what they would actually use it for, but it's just making it a lot easier for them and a lot less like, you know, if they had to go off and do all that research themselves and spend thousands of dollars on plans, they might not, and they might just look at another property to buy. So by us spending that money up front, rather than spending money on marketing, is probably a better thing to spend our money on. So that's another point. So try and solve problems, make it as easy as possible for the purchaser. But that applies to selling a house as well. You know, make it as easy as possible for everybody really in the process. And if you can see problems, try and work out how you can solve them for people. And so it just makes it easier for everybody basically. And the final thing is, what is the final thing? Basically solving their problems, then just trying to be flexible is probably the last thing. You know, with commercial things, you might not want the whole development side or only want a portion of it, or you might need terms. In fact, they might need a joint venture arrangement where you can, you know, provide a portion of the land, they provide the build, you're working it together. Just be open to options, you know, and this applies to houses as well, you know. Make it as easy as possible, but likewise be as flexible as possible. If someone says, hey, well, I can't move in for a year, you know, what are we going to do? Then don't just say, well, too bad, my owner wants to settle in 30 days. Try and work out a way that they can move in a year and settle in 30 days. Maybe find a tenant that's going to cover for the next year while that period's happening. And that's happened with a house I've just recently sold. They paid a little bit more than what they wanted to. They weren't going to be able to afford to move in straight away. So I said, hey, why don't we just put a tenant in there? You can save up some more money. So we've actually sold the property. They're going to settle based on the rental income. It's going to help them be able to purchase the property, but they're not going to move in for 2 years now. And so then when they're ready, they can move into the house they've always hoped for, and they've had the money to be able to do it, and the tenant's going to cover that cost in the meantime. So hopefully that made sense to everyone. If you've got any questions, feel free to put in the comments box. If it's made sense to you, click a like. If you think someone might find that useful, then click on the share button. And I look forward to answering your questions in the future. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Bye.